I don't think you need to be surprised if the Jaguars take some players that play positions that you don't think they need players. Tell you why in just a second on Locked On Jaguars.
You are Locked On Jaguars, your daily Jacksonville Jaguars podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
She said it, I didn't, but I'll repeat it. It is your team every day here on Locked On Jaguars. We thank you for making us your first listen. Wherever you get your podcast, make sure you tap into that location each and every day so you do not miss an episode. Whether you watch or listen, we will be there. And today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code Locked On NFL for $20 off your first purchase. What up to the everydayers? And hello to any newcomers. Let me tell you what you're going to get here today on Locked On Jaguars. This is a good running back class, man, and that's one of those positions that I believe the Jaguars, I think they're going to touch it. I think they're going to touch it up. They're going to touch it up. They're going to hit the running back position. We'll get into why I think they'll do it. I kind of hinted at it a little bit yesterday, but we'll get into it more here in segment 3. Right smack in the middle of the show, the star of the show today is Danny Stutzman, a linebacker from Oklahoma, who I think is going to be an absolute star in the National Football League. And I think the Jaguars would be smart to have some interest in Danny Stutzman as an off-ball linebacker. I'll tell you why right now. And that's because you don't need to be surprised if the Jaguars draft whatever position in this NFL draft. In the first round, picking 5th, I wouldn't call it a gift and a curse. It's a gift because, well, you get your choice. And I keep saying it, it's going to either be the 4th or the 5th choice, or I'm sorry, the 3rd or the 4th choice for Jacksonville. If 2 quarterbacks go, the Jaguars have no interest in quarterbacks, right? So if 2 guys go in the top 5 or the top 4, then that means if 2 quarterbacks go in the top 4, then that means the Jaguars will be sitting there with a luxury pick of actually picking 5th, but in their mind, they're probably picking 3rd. You know what I mean? They're going to get the 3rd best player in this draft based on their needs, and possibly because they've already committed to Trevor, they're going to get the 3rd best player in the draft anyway, because there's many people that believe if it wasn't for positional value, the 2 quarterbacks wouldn't even be thought of. One wouldn't be going number 1, and the other one wouldn't even be considered to be the first half of the first round pick. So let's just say theoretically, if you look at it, the Jaguars are picking 3rd in this draft. Unfortunately, there are 2 according to the experts, there are 2 non-quarterback guys that are blue chip, can't miss prospects, and that's Abdul Carter and, of course, Travis Hunter. Well, the Jags will be sitting at 5, and they'll be picking in a spot that's really 3rd, but it's still not ideal for them, because I wouldn't even say that necessarily wide receiver, corner, or which is both of the positions that Travis plays, or 3 technique is or edge rusher is like their first priority. And this is the lesson that I'm trying to show everybody. But you bet your bottom dollar if they could have pick number 4, they're going to take whoever falls between Travis Hunter and Abdul Carter. And this is what I mean. Sometimes, like, the best talent doesn't necessarily line up with your needs. So that's why we're going to get into the flip side of that. The flip side of it is once you get past number 5 and you move down, right? That becomes even more prevalent, because the chances when you pick at number 5, the chances that something is just going to be so good that you can't turn it down, a la a Hunter or an Abdul Carter. Hunter automatically becomes one of your 3 best players on your team. He just does. All right, that's one thing. The other thing is Abdul Carter becomes a very, very valuable asset to get teams off the field on 3rd down, and gives you something to think about maybe in a couple of years when you're looking at Josh Hines-Allen's contract and his age. So And that would be around the time Trayvon would be entering the first year of his contract extension, first or maybe the second year. So it gives you a lot of versatility. Like you can think about now and the future and knock out a major need at once. But when you get further and further away from that, you start looking at guys who you really have to pay attention to the talent over the position. I think the further away you get from the top of the draft, you have to pay more attention to the talent as opposed to the position that a guy plays, because you just got to make sure you get it right. It's easier to get it right when you're in the top 5 is my point. It's harder to get it right later on. And I think it's easy when you're in those situations to go chasing positions and chasing people that can come and fortify the roster that you have now. And the thing about the Jaguars is, for the most part, this isn't the roster that any of those people built. So to continue to try to just fortify and add to that and not make it a priority to kind of make it your own, I think is a mistake. So what I'm going to do is focus today on positions where the players that will be available on the board in terms of what the Jaguars appear to need right now or possibly even need next year. They might not fit the bill of being a priority right now, but I'll tell you why you have to take some of those guys. The positions I'm going to focus on are linebacker and running back. Positions I'm going to focus on are linebacker and running back. I think corner is another position. I think they might get down there in the 4th round also, and if they either address the defensive tackle position, they might look and do it again. So we'll hit that too. They might look and do it again, because every mock draft that I keep doing, and boy, am I about sick of them, but every mock draft that I keep doing, when they get right there in the 4th round with those 2 4th-round picks, they have their pick of who they want in terms of defensive line help. And these are the ones where I've done Mason Graham first in the 1st round. And the ones that I didn't do Mason Graham first in the 1st round, I turned around and did like Joshua Farmer in the 3rd round. And then when I get to the 4th round with those 2 picks, the value on the board continues to scream defensive tackle. So I'm wondering if they'll double back and hit that position again. And we'll talk the contracts too, and I think the contracts have a lot to do with it. So let's make sure we get into that here in segment number 2 on Locked on Jaguars. Today's show is sponsored by Game Time. There's nothing like the atmosphere of the NBA playoff game. Every bucket, every defensive stop, every moment feels huge. It's electric in the arena, and with Game Time, you can be a part of it without the stress of last-minute ticket hunting. Game Time makes it fast and easy to get playoff tickets, even when demand is sky high. Prices on the app actually go down as tip-off gets closer, and their last-minute deals can save you up to 60%. Priority last-minute deals, man, is so important because you can get 60% off buying last minute for sports, concerts, comedy, theater, etc. I mean, sometimes you don't know when you're going to get paid if your check's going to hit the bank. So you got to do it at the last minute. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code. I'll spell it for you. LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right, rolling along here on Locked on Jaguars, where it's your team every day. We thank you for making us your first listen. Did I say your first liquor? No, hopefully you ain't drinking this early in the morning. It's your first listen here on Locked on Jaguars. We are exactly 1 week away from the NFL draft, and I'm trying to point out some positions and get the fans prepared for players who might get drafted where the team doesn't think they absolutely need the immediate help. And I'm looking right there in that 2nd round, man, on pick number 36. And I know people are going to think I'm crazy for saying this, but have y'all watched the tape of Oklahoma Mike linebacker or off-ball linebacker Danny Stutzman? Now, of course, this would all, if the Jaguars have any interest in him, and they should, they absolutely should. And some people might say 36 is a tad high. Okay, if you move back a little bit, or if you play that game in the first round, And depending on what they're able to do at 5, obviously, if they get Abdul Carter or Jalen Walker, this goes out of the window a little bit, although it still probably doesn't have to. But I wouldn't be surprised at number 36 if the Jaguars said they go up there and they already made a pick and it's Mason Graham or an offensive lineman, and the next pick on the draft, the person gets up there and they go, with the 36th pick in the draft, the Jaguars select linebacker Danny Stutzman from Oklahoma. I would not be upset. I would not be upset. I'm going to tell you this. I'm going to say this, and it's pretty much common knowledge, right? Every year, there are people that get drafted early. There are people that everybody has the same list or close to the same list. They have the same big board, same top 100. And we know, folks, we argue about that over and over. And if it's not groupthink and if it's not in line, everybody gets upset, right? And then they actually go to the teams and the games start. And we don't judge it too much by 1 year, but sometimes we do. We've seen that happen with Trayvon Walker. And what happens is I look at it over a 2 or 3 year period. And when you go back and look over a 2 or 3 year period, all of the pundits, including myself, were wrong. Somehow we don't ever sit here and go, okay, I learned from that. Maybe somebody who thinks differently, maybe they're onto something. Because last year, if someone had thought differently and drafted Brian Thomas Jr. at number 6, folks would have thought they were crazy until they saw the games get played. And then they would have still thought that person was crazy because there's no vindication for it. Because most of the people that do this, especially the ones on TV, they hate going back and talking about what they said before. So there's this detachment. The detachment is from playing the game of the draft and trying to see who sounds most like right. And most like right comes from the judgment of that comes from what everybody on TV is saying. And then there's this other thing. And this is why we're going to get into Danny Stutzman. There's this other thing. It's called the real football thing, right? Especially the people that don't like fantasy football. They'll understand what I'm saying. I don't have a problem separating real football from fantasy football. But there's real football. And real football is what the people that do this for a living do. Real football tells me that Danny Stutzman is going to be a 10-year fixture on your TV screen as a tackling machine. That when the defense goes to the sideline, and this is what the tape says to me, when the defense goes to the sideline or they come back from break on the TV break, the first person they're going to show on the sideline is Danny Stutzman with his hat off, dapping his teammates up, or people coming up to him on the sideline, dapping his teammates up. Then it won't matter that everybody gets mad at you if you say that Danny Stutzman needs to be the pick at number 36. I just get this feeling. The more tape I watch and the more I start to watch prospects and the more I go, okay, get all of the filler, get all of the fluff, all of the Senior Bowl stuff that didn't matter, some of this that didn't matter. Who looks the part? It's Danny Stutzman. That's who looks the part. He looks like he could be to this team what Paul Posluszny was. And why is that important for the Jaguars? Well, we don't need no linebackers, man. We got 4 Illuicon. We got 3 other guys vying for that other spot. Bingo, you just said it. Because you got 3 other guys vying for another spot. One dude was a first-round pick you traded up for who didn't get his 5th-year option exercise, and that's Devin Lloyd. Another guy is a guy who was picked in the same draft, and he's going to be a free agent too. His name is Chad Muma. The other guy is Ventrell Miller, a dude that is in his 3rd season. And while he did flash and he played well last year, and I do think he is a pretty good fit for what they try to do moving forward, especially if he stays healthy. That's still not a reason for you to not take somebody else. Stutzman, 6'3", 233, 235 pounds. And here's the other thing. 4 Illuicon, first year of his extension, right? How old is he, 30? 29, 30? He said the other day that, man, you always got to prove yourself. This is a new organization, a new regime. So you got a 30-year-old linebacker who's your lead dog and who's a tackling machine. And then you got 3 other guys, and you got to make a decision. You ain't going to be able to keep, you shouldn't want to re-sign 3 guys all in one off season, I think they have to re-sign Ventrell. I don't think Ventrell. I think this is the last year of his deal. If I'm not, I'm wrong, but still, it still applies. You still got two guys that are vying for a lot of playing time that are both through contracts after this year, and neither one of them have distinguished themselves. And you look up, and this kid you think is going to be a 10-year player in the National Football League, and you think he's going to be a sideline superstar, and he fits what Anthony Campanile wants to do. He plays like that. He sticks his nose in. He runs like the wind from sideline to sideline. He's stout at the point of attack. He's super, super smart. He calls everything out. And then for a team that's running a four-man front, where they also go to a lot of 4-2-5. They might go through a little bit of 3-3-5 or 3-2-6, whatever it is in certain situations. Maybe a little 5-2-4. You know what I'm saying? If they start running some bear front stuff, you're gonna need people that can run sideline to sideline, that tackle well in open space, and that's what this kid is. That's what he is. So would I be surprised? I know there's been a lot of love for Carson Schwarzenegger from UCLA. I think Stutzman is a little bit more stout at the point of the attack, and I think he's a little bit more instinctive, and is not as much as a chase and grab guy. He's a thumper. So would I be angry if they took Danny Stutzman, linebacker from Oklahoma? Hell no, I'd do cartwheels if they took him, because I know he's going to be good. But it'll be the fans that'll be upset. Like, man, we already got 4 linebackers, man. How important is it? This is where team building comes into it. And you can look at it two ways. You can look at all the contract situations and the age of foil of like I just said, and then go, he's too good to pass up. That's easy. Or you could just look at it like this. I think he's better than anybody on our team except Foy. And we need to run him side by side with Foy. So some people may look at it as a look ahead or a luxury pick. I look at it as it's an improvement, and it's a look ahead, and it's a luxury pick. And in my assessment, he's better than anybody else on that team that could line up next to Foy Oluokun. If he's running around on the field looking like Paul Posluszny and Telvin Smith and getting it done, ain't nobody going to care that they chose him 36 over some backup offensive lineman or a wide. No, I'm telling you, nobody's going to care. I'm preparing y'all in y'all's minds that the people that do this for a living, they're not looking at it the same way you're looking at it. They're absolutely not. They want people that can help them right away, but they want football playing Jessies too. And this goes back to me thinking when I did the show last week, telling you that they're not soft. They keep saying the number one characteristic they're looking for is mental and physical toughness. So y'all can fall for the smiles and the nice communication if you want to, and think that this team, like they just got one guy, Anthony Campanile, running around like a drill sergeant. He's the only guy that's going to be setting everybody straight. Man, y'all out of y'all mind. These dudes will cut you with a smile on your face. I'm telling you. What it boils down to me is all of these things that people are saying about being intangibly rich and all of that stuff. You know what it comes down to me? It comes down to me. Do you love football? Is football first? Do you have all of these things? Do you have anything that's going to be a distraction to keep you from loving football? It's why I think they would love Travis Hunter, because all he wants to do is play football. He wants to play football too much. He wants to play offense and defense. So that falls right in line with what they like. If it isn't really, really important to you, I don't think you're going to even be invited to come here. You definitely won't last. Watch Danny Stutzman tape and tell me that it doesn't matter. And try to look at it from my perspective and make sense on why it would make sense. I'm going to tell you the same thing about the running back class, and maybe even the defensive tackle class. We'll do it in just a second here on Locked On Jaguars. Today's show is sponsored and brought to you by LinkedIn Talent Solutions, and we are all in, baby. As a small business owner, your work doesn't end when the clock hits 5. Your business is always on your mind, even when you go home, which means it's time to hire. When it's time to hire, you need a partner that works just as hard as you do. And that's where LinkedIn Jobs comes in. When you clock out, LinkedIn clocks in. LinkedIn makes it easy to post your job for free, share it with your network, and get qualified candidates all in one place. Post your job at LinkedIn's with their new feature, and it can help you write job descriptions and then quickly get your job in front of the right people with deep candidate insights. And here's a pro tip: add the hashtag hiring frame to your profile picture to double your reach to qualified candidates. No wonder 72% of small businesses say LinkedIn helps them find high quality hires. So post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonnfl. That's linkedin.com/lockedonnfl to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. All right, moving along here. Locked On Jaguars, where it's your team every day. We thank you for making us your first listen. Talking about the positions, you shouldn't be surprised if the Jaguars reach out and touch someone early on day 2 in the draft. What about running back? Now, keep in mind the Jaguars have a second-round pick and 2 third-round picks, okay? Second and 2/3 and then 2 fourths. What about running back? I'll say, what about it? Okay. We've been mentioning a lot lately that Liam Cohen loves to call plays with 2 tailbacks in the game. You didn't see a lot of that here. I'm challenging anybody to tell me any plays where you saw 2 tailbacks in the game. I think there was one play where they had Tank Bigsby lined up at fullback, and they had Doug Peterson had Travis Etienne at tailback. I think there was this one play, and they tried to run a little, what was it called? The little West Coast play, a dive play with Tank Bigsby, and I think it failed miserably. But for the most part, it's not something that they did on a regular basis. That even if they did do it sometimes, like Liam Cohen did it a lot in Tampa. And he didn't do it in an exploratory way. He did it in a way that was very intentional. Like, no, we know what we got. Let's run this right now. We've been looking for this all day. And when you do that, and then you take in consideration that a lot of teams carry 3 running backs on Sunday, and Tampa could very well have carried 3 running backs. But you would think that when you have to plan for, okay, what if somebody gets dinged up? So if a team that carries 3 running backs never uses 2 running backs, a team that uses 2 running backs, 2 tailbacks, will probably carry more than 3 running backs. So that affects roster construction, right? And if it affects roster construction and that position is a priority for the Jaguars, then they will probably make sure that they're extremely happy with about 4 running backs that they could play every weekend, with one of those guys probably being a dual threat person who could return kicks. And I would say right now that would be Keelan Robinson with the way the kicking game is these days. So let's just say that's what he is, right? Well, you still need another back. What do you have? You have Tank Bigsby, who's a combo back who can run with power, and he's not slow, so he can break long runs off. I'm not saying he's a speed back, but what I am saying is if you put Tank Bigsby in the game, you're not going to sit there and say, well, we know we ain't going to break no long runs. There are some running backs you have, like if it's Samaj Piran, the long runs probably go away. Tank Bigsby isn't that guy. He's fast enough that he can get out and scoot on you, and we've seen that here in the past. With Travis Etienne, you got a complete air back. You also have a dude that I think he runs better in between the tackles than we think. It's just that the Jaguars' offensive line has stunk, especially when it comes to how long it took or how long it did not take for teams to get tacklers in the backfield and to be able to touch the runners as soon as they touch the ball. And then philosophically, not play calling or by play design, but philosophically, the mentality, I believe, was totally wrong with the past organization. And I think this organization proves that they believe that too, because they signed 4 offensive linemen in free agency. Baselli kind of cracked a smile the other day. I said, boy, you told me you was going to fix the offensive line. He said, hey, we signed 4 people already. And they did not sound like they're done necessarily. It didn't necessarily sound like they're going to draft a lineman too, but it sounds like they're open to continue to look for stuff in that area. But I said that to say this. When you see people talk about breaking the line of scrimmage and running the football, and then you see tape where they run 2 running backs, and then you look at the Jaguars, and one dude is playing the last year of his contract, and the other dude is in year 3 of a 4-year deal. I think and you look at the draft, and the running back class is like one of the deepest we've seen in a while. where there's projected there's at least 10 dudes that's going to be running around in somebody's backfield, why not get one if you're the Jaguars with extra picks in the 3rd and 4th round? I think they will. So don't be surprised. I would be surprised if it's in round 2 a little bit. The only player that would not surprise me if it's in round 2, obviously, if they take Ashton Jeanty with number 5, it's nothing to even discuss, because that would be the jolt of talent you need. That would be the identity guy, the running back that sets the template. You would expect that he'd be a day 1 starter. So I'm not doing this in terms of, well, they're going to take Jeanty. I think if Omarion Hampton fell to them, or if Travion Henderson is there, once again, helps now. How many people thought Tampa needed Bucky Irvin last year? They thought they were cool with Rachaad White, right? And then you get Bucky Irvin, and now Bucky Irvin is the dude. Rachaad White is still who he was. But guess what? Tampa's outlook looks even higher, because now they got 2 guys that can play that spot, and it's clear that Bucky's the best of both of them, right? That's what competition does. So if you get a dude in here, whether it's Jeanty or Henderson or Omarion Hampton, and he's better than what you have now, he starts now, gives you a little bit of leverage now with Travis Etienne, especially for teams that may be needing a running back. Or do you let him go ahead and ride out and then think about the compensatory pick? If your season is going well, use them both. And then have Bigsby as your 3rd guy. Everybody touches, everybody's happy. You're running the football. You're scoring points, because now you can run the football. You got a better line, and now Trevor Lawrence, because of the design of the offense, is now matriculating the ball down the field, putting up more points. You're getting ahead in games. That's something the Jaguars aren't used to. When you get ahead in games, what is the best thing that you can do? Run the football, especially if you're good at it. And then it demoralizes the other team. Think about it. Even if they go defensive tackle early, this is a big defensive tackle draft. Why not come back in the 3rd or 4th round if Jamari Caldwell or Joshua Farmer sitting there? Take them. Take them. Eric Armstead is older, and Devon Hamilton, you can let him go after this year if you replace him. And then you have a nice young rotation with 2 young guys this year, and Mason Smith and Jordan Jefferson moving forward next year. A lot of possibilities. Day 1, day 2, and then even early day 3 with 2 4th-round picks. Make sure you check out Locked On NFL Draft, because you can check out all these guys I just mentioned. I'm sure they talked about Danny Stutzman, man. He is the real deal. Make sure you check out Locked On NFL Draft to figure out who these day 2 and day 3 guys are in the draft that the Jaguars can get. Wherever you get your podcast, make it your second listen. Damian Parsons and Coach Keith Sanchez. All right, I'm Tony Wiggins, man. We're a week away, 1 week out from Locked On, from the NFL Draft. Locked On NFL Draft, the actual mock draft from our network, should be out sometime today, no later than tomorrow. Check that out, and you'll see what I did and why I did it for the Jacksonville Jaguars. All right, man. Until next time, we'll see you next time here on Locked On Jaguars.